Hello everyone. It is Friday. No, it's not. Oh my god, it's Thursday? Thursday. I'm so confused because there was a snow day here yesterday and kiddo didn't go to school. But, okay, it is Thursday. And I was getting ready to make some thank you cards for my club girls and anyone else who ordered in January. And I thought, well, I might as well just go live and make this card with all of you. So I have made this card previously. I did it as part of a swap that I did with another demo, and I really loved how it turned out. So we are going to make it again. We're using new product from the mini catalog. We're using Saleabration freebies. And yeah, we're just gonna get started. It's a pretty simple card. You don't necessarily have to have a big shot. You're going to see me using the big shot, but you could easily just use rectangular shapes where I use these dies. You could just do rectangles. And certainly where I do this die for, hi Lynn, the stamping, the sentiment, you could pick something else. So the main focus of this card is the Golden Honey Designer Series paper. So this is free specialty DSP that you can get if you do a $60 order. And the reason it is a specialty DSP is you can see there is gold foil in it. So one side of each piece has gold foil, and one side of each piece has a black and white theme. So we had something similar to this maybe last year or the year before. There was a DSP that had a black and white side to it, and then it had a foil side on the other. So it's really nice because you can just sort of have a subtle card, or you can sort of jazz it up with some foil. Okay, so when I made this card the first time around, I used Daffodil Delight as my cardstock base. So we were going to do that again. So this is a standard piece of cardstock I've cut in half. So it is now 5.5 by 8.25, or 8.5, sorry. We're going to score it at 4.25, okay? And we always, this is our valley becomes our hill. So that's how you know how you're meant to fold your paper once you place a score line. And of course you can use your bone folder to get a nice crisp fold, even with the scoring. So we will do that. So there's our cardstock, okay? That's our standard cardstock. Hi, Nicole. Next thing I did, and I've already cut these pieces, is we have our first layer, and we're using this DSP. And so this is cut at 5.25 by 4. And that way we get the nice border of our daffodil. So I thought the daffodil was a nice complement to the gold. Hi, Marianina. And I didn't want to use a bunch of gold foil, A, because it costs more than cardstock, and B, because I really wanted to use this ribbon because I hadn't used it yet. And so for that, we needed to do daffodil. Okay, so that is that piece. So let's put that together as opposed to just chat about it. So you're just going to use your Tombow, your snail, whatever adhesive you like. Once again, if you're wondering why my snail has a pink backing, I just popped it out and put it in an old case I had so that when I'm doing a class or I'm with other demos, I know which one is mine, because mine looks different because it's got pink on the back as opposed to the black that the snail comes in. Also, when you get a refill, you can pop it into any case that you want. Okay, so there's our initial layer. So now what I did for the next 2 layers was I incorporated some dies. So as I said, you could easily just use rectangles if you don't have the big shot, or if you don't have these dies. This die is roughly 4 inches, 4 1/8 by 2 3/4. So you could easily do that as a rectangle. So I used this paper, and I did it so that my hexagons were going to be in the opposite directions for a bit more visual interest. Okay, so we're going to run that through the big shot. At the same time, I wanted to frame that piece with some Daffodil Delight. I wanted to layer it or mat it. And so we're just going to do that with a slightly bigger stitched rectangle. So we can run those through. and then I'm going to show you what we're going to do with that bit. So I'm going to bring over the Big Shot. Right now it's got the magnetic platform on. We don't need that. Oh no, it doesn't actually. It has our normal platform. We'll put in our plate. We will get our embossing plates. So we probably can't run these both through at the same time anyway. When you're running through your rectangular dies, you always want to run them through on an angle, in case you didn't know that already. It might not be such an issue with this one, but it's just easier for your die. You don't get a lot of kickback when you run it through on an angle. It's not as much work for the Big Shot. So we'll run that through. I know, fascinating, fascinating. Okay, so there we have, whoa! We have that layer. We'll save that piece for another project. Excuse me. And then we will run through this daffodil piece. Same thing. I'm going to put it as far over to the edge as I can because I want to use, we need this scrap for the rest of our card. And I'm hoping there will be enough. So we're going to run that through on an angle as well. So you can see even with it at an angle, you saw how it sort of caught there a little bit. Because I could probably have it on more of an angle would be ideal, but because I am trying to use up the rest of that paper. You know what though? We could do something really fun here in case you guys don't know this trick. So let's move the Big Shot out of the way. So what we need to do, we're going to stamp our sentiment on a piece of daffodil, and we need to do this die. So that's why I wanted this scrap piece of paper. But what I have just realized is we could just do it on the middle of this, because when we make our card is going to go like this, and you are not going to know that this piece is missing. Perfect. So we are going to do that. This is an excellent way to make better use of your cardstock, and it is the best thing to do, especially, let's say we had done gold foil here, and then I was saying like, ooh, that's a lot of foil paper. When you use fancy papers like that, and you're using them just to border something, if you have the rectangles or the squares or the circles, and you can layer, and you can just have that border, and then cut out the middle, and then use that for another project, it is such a great use of those specialty papers that just cost us a little more money. So I'm not going to cut that out at the moment because we need to stamp on it, but I know that I need to center this right in the middle. So we are going to use this stamp. I can't thank you enough. And it is from the So Sentimental stamp set. So this is in the new mini, and it comes bundled with these stitched So Sweetly dies. Now, of course, you don't ever have to buy the bundle. You can just buy the stamp set if you don't have the dies, but this is what the dies look like. So you can see that some of them are meant to match the shapes of the stamp sets, and then you've got these lovely layering sort of scalloped rectangles. So really pretty. I really wanted those dies, and I knew that I would use these sentiments, so that's where we went with this. Okay, so I've got out my embossing buddy in case anyone didn't know what this was or you were wondering. So what we are going to do, we are going to rub the front of this paper, and that just helps us to get off any static so that our embossing powder doesn't stick where we don't want it. I am going to stamp this in Memento. You could use StazOn, you could use whatever sort of black ink you have. You could also use Versamark or any other pale colored ink, because then we are going to heat emboss using the shimmery black. I feel like it's called shimmery. Maybe it's called, I don't know. Could someone tell me? Let me look on the bottle. It is called, yes, Shimmer Black embossing powder. Okay, so we're going to use that. Okay, so... And this, in case anyone's wondering what this is, these are old stamp cases that the stamps used to come in years ago with Stampin' Up. And I kept them, and they are great for this. I don't even have enough of them anymore. Okay, so we're going to stamp that. We're going to put it in the middle. And then we are going to quickly dip it in our embossing powder. Cover up where we stamped, tap it off. It's very pretty. Okay, we're gonna close that and move it off to the side to avoid any spillage. We're gonna close our ink pad as well. I can see I got some on there. So we don't need any of those items again. Now we're gonna heat that up. We'll do it now while it's on the big piece, because then it will be less likely to get me having hot fingers. So of course it just takes a minute, and then you will start to see, there we go, it starts to change. All right, that is that simple. So the heat gun and the embossing powder, I mean, it is obviously not a must-have. I mean, I suppose nothing actually is a must-have, but it really is a lot of fun. It's a really easy way to add a little bit of extra something to your card for not a lot of money. The embossing powders come in a lot of different colors. I did emboss using Memento, yep, but you don't need to. You could use Versamark or even a light gray ink, because the black would cover it up. So now we're going to cut this out, okay? And at the same time, although actually we're not going to, it might not work at the same time. We're going to change out our plates. We're going to use the magnetic plate now, because I want to make sure that we are centered perfectly on our sentiment. And I'm going to angle that too. It's just kind of my new thing now. I pretty much just angle every die except for a circle. Just so you don't have as much of the die going through at once. So you're not putting as much stress on the big shot. Okay, make sure that didn't move, and it shouldn't with the magnetic platform, but sometimes I don't realize that I have. Okay, so there we have that, and then we still have that piece. While I still have the big shot out, I'm going to make another layer. So I want a second layer of this shape, and I'm going to do that in black. Oh, that's interesting, Marianina, that you've never seen that. So Marianina was just saying that she's never seen embossing done by not using Versamark. So I do that quite a lot, and I do that when I use the clear embossing powder. So let's say, here, I'm going to show you I'm not going to do it, but I'll just give you an example, a visual one. So I was working on a card earlier today, a simple stamping card. So I was working on this card earlier today, simple stamping, and this is going to be the final project. But I was also going to make a stepped up version. So my stepped up version is going to include me having this lovely lipstick sentiment. I'm going to stamp in lovely lipstick, and then I am going to use clear embossing powder, and that's just going to make it look like I actually had lovely lipstick colored embossing powder, which I don't, but I think there is. So that is the trick. You can use any color of ink. It just depends what color powder you put over top of it. Okay, so let's move our scraps to the side. We're going to keep our embossing or our dies. We're going to bring our card front back out here, and we're going to start to do some layering. So this is not a scrap. This is our card. Okay, so this is going to layer on top of that. Again, we're just going to do that with our snail. So, of course, we always put snail on the smaller of the two layers, or adhesive, whatever your choice of adhesive is. Because if you put, oh, I shouldn't have done that because there's no center. If you put it on the bigger piece, you risk having adhesive where you don't actually have a piece of paper. So we're going to center that. Okay, so see, that doesn't matter. So now we have that layer. And it is going to go on here like this. So this was a bit of a happy accident when I was making this card the first time. I had stamped the black on the yellow, but then I had also stamped white on the black. And because I was making this as a swap for someone else, I let them decide which one they liked better, and both of us really liked the black on the yellow better. But then I had this extra piece, and so I thought, well, why not use it for kind of like a little bit of a 3D effect? So that's actually how we're going to layer it. Sometimes you will see when people want to layer a die and there's not another one just a little bit bigger, you can get this die and you can cut it in half, and then that allows you to sort of split it open and make a bigger die. but I really just liked this sort of fun 3D effect. So that's what we're gonna do. But the other thing you can do with this set of dies, this next die, you'll see, is the same shape except for this. So you can use that as a layering piece. You could cut it off, but then you miss having the stitching. So you could play around with that though. Okay, so we're going to layer this on here. So I'm just gonna put some snail on this guy. And then we are gonna use a bunch of dimensionals. We're gonna pull in that ribbon, and it's gonna be just as easy as that. Done. So you can kind of figure out where you want this to go. I think maybe in the last one I kind of went where the stitching was as my layer. So like that. And I had it up there in the corner because we're gonna put our ribbon around here. So we're gonna have dimensionals on this, and we're going to have dimensionals on this. Okay. So now we're gonna tie ourselves like a really fabulous bow. I must admit, the card that I did make for my friend, the bow was awesome. I was like, yes, that bow is the best. And that's not always the case. And sometimes I find your bow looks upside down to the way you want it, and there's all sorts of things. I'm sure there are tricks to the bow, and I'm not gonna lie to you, I am not the one to give them to you. I have some tricks when it comes to just doing a knot, but I maybe don't have the best tricks when it comes to the bow. Okay, so we're gonna do our bow here. This ribbon, by the way, is to die for. It is so pretty. That's gonna work out, okay. It's ruched, and it's not super thick. It's only 1/4 of an inch. So it's really, really nice. Okay, let's get out our scissors. We're gonna make these guys just a little bit smaller. I want a little bit bigger of a tail on my bow. And so you can see on this one, because it was used before, I've cut that way. So I'm just gonna cut the same on the other end. I just like to, I like symmetry. Yeah, Lynn, this ribbon is really pretty. Really, really pretty. Okay, and daffodil is a great color. So even if you're thinking like, oh, 10 yards of ribbon is a lot, with a color like this, it's so great. There's so many great floral stamp sets. For example, that card I showed you, this is this Thoughtful Blooms, which is another free set you can earn with a $60 purchase. So there's so many great sets. That yellow could easily be an accent color in, and you would get really good use out of this ribbon. Okay, we are on to dimensionals, folks, and because I have a really organized drawers, thanks to my mom's help at Christmas, this will be easy peasy. So I'm actually just gonna, you're probably like, what is she doing? I'm retying that bow because I hadn't cut it off yet. It's not quite as tight as I wanted it across there. So let's do that again. Okay. There we go. Now we just have to regain our awesome bonus. Is that a word? Okay. So when we have big pieces like that, this is when I love to use the scraps of my dimensionals. And what you'll see that I will do is I'll either take just a big scrap and put it like all the way across there, or I will put them on angles. So because we've got the ribbon, we can't do the angles there, but I'm gonna do the angles up here. And then I'm gonna do another one over here. And then on this side, we're actually gonna take this whole big strip and put it down here. And then we're gonna do something like this in the middle. And I might kind of throw something around like this. So this is what I love to save. Hey, Corey. Those is for things like that, for those big pieces. And now this guy, we can still use these bits. Corey, are you really watching from Hawaii? You crazy cat. And we can kind of do the same thing here because this is so we'll kind of go like that. And then sometimes what I do when I don't want to add another full big dimensional, because I feel like I've already got so many, I'll just use some little guys. So I often combine big and little to one shape. Okay, so this is going to go on there like that. We're going to play around with that ribbon a little bit. And you can sort of play around with where you want this. You could put it to one side. You could totally have it centered. Totally up to you. So I am going to take these bits off first, and then we will put that on, and then we will be done, ladies. And this is awesome because I still have time to clean up and maybe have a cup of tea before I have to go get my son from school, and probably shovel, because I saw the last time I went upstairs that it had snowed again. We live on the corner, which is great because you get a little bit extra yard, but when you live on the corner, you also get a lot of extra sidewalk. And of course, it is your responsibility as the homeowner to ensure your sidewalks are shoveled before 10 a.m. Did you know that? Obviously not before 10 a.m. when it wasn't snowing this morning, but given that everyone's going to be walking past our house to go to school, see you later, Corey. Enjoy the sun. I want to make sure that I have got our walk shoveled. All right, so we're going to take all those off, make sure that's not showing, and then we're going to decide. So that is centered. I think I'm going to have it slightly, I'm trying to think what I did on my original card. I think I had it like slightly off center and down a little, and that's what I'm going to do again. Okay, so there you have it, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. So, of course, all of these products are available. The paper you have to earn, so $60 order will get you that paper as one of your free choices. I've got my host code on my Facebook page. Sorry, I don't have it. I didn't write it down beforehand, so I can't tell you what it is off the top of my head. But if you ever are interested in ordering something and it all sort of seems a bit scary to you ordering online or using the host code yourself, you just need to send me an email and I can help you out with that, whether I place the order for you or just help you walk you through the steps. All right, so please do not hesitate to contact me. And I hope you have a fabulous rest of Friday and a fabulous weekend. And we'll catch up again soon. Thanks, everyone. Bye.